Do you think the world feels any sympathy for Israel, especially after this shocking story? And warning, this is extremely disturbing. Israeli soldiers subjected a 1-year-old child in central Gaza to torture to pressure his father into making confessions during an interrogation, Palestine TV reported Sunday, citing Palestinian journalist Osama al-Khalaut. It aired footage showing injuries to the child, identified as Karim, after he was detained by Israeli forces near the Al-Maghazi refugee camp in the central Gaza Strip. The forces tortured the child in front of his father, including burning one of his legs with cigarettes, pricking him, and inserting a nail into his leg, as confirmed by a medical report. The child was released about 10 hours later and handed over to his family through the International Committee of the Red Cross in Al-Maghazi, while the father remains in Israeli detention. A baby. Israel forces tortured a baby. So no, people will not feel sympathy for a state that's engaged in multiple wars, genocide, and is now crying they are facing just a tiny fraction of the way they treat others. I want to get your comment on Israel suddenly caring about international law.
Well, to the nation of Israel, to the Israeli government, to the IDF, so-called, you have sown the wind and you are now reaping the whirlwind. I have not a single iota of sympathy for you and your nation. Simple as that. Since the year 1980, you have had 93 UN resolutions passed against you, none of which you have complied with. You have a nuclear base very near to the bombings that were shown earlier, which, by the way, are potentially war crimes by Iran. I will not deny that for a second. You have a nuclear base near to this location, which you have not allowed a single International Atomic Energy Agency employee inspect at any point, and you indeed deny exists. The idea that you care about international law is a farce. We have watched you destroy the Gaza Strip over the last 3 years. We have seen the continued annexation of land and houses and farms, etc., from the Palestinians in the West Bank as well. You have bombed every single one of your neighbours and many of the countries that don't even border you, including, of course, Iran. You have bombed Iranian oil fields to the point where they have gasoline rain pouring down upon them, which will have health impacts upon them for potentially the rest of their lives. You have killed untold numbers of people in Palestine over the last 3 years. And just as a personal rumination upon this, the last 3 times now I've been on this show, we have covered the story of Israeli armed forces sodomizing a prisoner with a knife and being let off. We have covered the murder of an entire Palestinian family who were just going out to get some food. And we have now covered the torture of a 1-year-old with cigarette burns and a nail through the leg. The idea that the Israeli government give the slightest shit about international law is a disgusting alloy of hypocrisy to the genocide they are engaging in. And I will not for a second get into a debate with any motherfucker who claims that this isn't a genocide. If you claim it isn't a genocide, it is because you support the genocide.
I think October 7th, around that time, a bit after, I happily would debate with people saying this is a genocide, because a lot of people would have been ignorant about the historical issues with the apartheid state of Israel, right? People were waking up to that fact. And there are people since the 7th of October have gone on a journey, have changed their view. In the year 2026, where hundreds of thousands of people have been slaughtered, where I've seen images of teenagers be burnt to death, just talking about that story where a 1-year-old was tortured, you could come up with the most depraved crimes in your head, and you still probably couldn't imagine it being as bad as what the IDF has done.
The most moral army in the world.
The most moral army in the world. Last week we talked about, as you pointed out, someone was raped with a knife. They had anal fissures and tears, broken ribs, you name it. And not only were they let off, there was a right to rape protest where many Israelis, I think settlers, were demanding these people be released. One of the people involved in the sexual assault went on Israeli media, had their face covered, but went on Israeli media, defended their actions, and people in the audience clapped that person. This is not just an issue with the government. You look at polling and you look at interviews such as Abby Martin, who went to Israel years ago, and recent ones. This is an epidemic of sickness within Israeli society. The data backs that up. The idea that me or you or anyone is going to debate whether this is a genocide in 2026 is absolutely, for the birds, deplorable. And if you are someone who still thinks this isn't a genocide or who's defending Israel, you are irreformable. You are someone I do not want to know. And I have no sympathy if you are shamed for the rest of your life. Even in 20, 30 years' time, you suddenly come to the revelation, because there's going to be a great awakening where I was always against this, and you start to feel guilty. I hope that guilt eats you away, because the crimes of Israel is something that I don't think I could have imagined people doing when I was 20 years old. And day after day, we're seeing horrific stories like that. Poor 1-year-old Karim being tortured